What is going on, everybody? It is summertime here in Minnesota. It's summertime all over the U.S. You know, most of the bass, they're off the bed, so this is going to be a real interesting what's on my deck. We're talking both largemouth, both smallmouth, and for the most part, all these baits will work all over the country. Up here in the north, you got fish coming off of beds. You know, the smallies are coming off the beds. Largemouth maybe been off for a little bit more. Down south, they're generating water. It's getting real hot. People need their air conditioning, and they're generating current, and the fish are biting. All these baits will catch fish no matter what in the month of July. We're not quite dog days of summer. That'll come up in August, but these baits will definitely help that transition. Early July, I'm thinking fish are biting. Late July, we're starting to get into the dog days of summer, and you know, you're just getting less bites, and you really got to finesse those bites to get them. But at the same time, they start generating water, the wind starts picking up, those first few hours in the morning, first few hours at night, the fish are biting, and this will help get them done. The very first one I want to talk about is a wacky piece of plastic, in many cases a wacky Cinco, or in this case a wacky Spawn Exo Stick. I'm using an owner Sniper Finesse for this. This is, I believe, a 1/0, maybe a size 1, I can't quite remember. It's the one that has the weed guard on it. This is what I like to use on those shallow flats. I'm using it with the ActiveTarget a little bit for fish that I see suspended, but I'm definitely using it shallow. No matter what, you got a lot of fish coming off the spawn that are shallow on their way out deep. They're spooky. This bait will get it. You don't necessarily want to throw a chatterbait at that fish. You want to throw something finessey, something that you can target those individual fish with. At the same time, a good population of the fish stay shallow. And again, they're just kind of weary. There's been a lot of traffic up shallow, people chasing them around on the spawn, and the wacky Cinco will definitely get the job done. I'm using a Loomis NRX Plus, rocking these new Plus rods. They're all the rage. They're pretty awesome. This is the 852S jigworm rod, which is 7 foot 1 inch medium action, and I'm using the brand new Shimano Exsence. This is the 4000 MXG, the new Exsence spinning reel. This is my combo. I mean, I love the NRX Plus. I'm a big time Exsence guy. We're gonna go through that a lot with a lot of these rods. I like to switch it up on these what's on my decks, but in this case, we're pulling out all my big guns, talking about this new NRX Plus line and all the new stuff that's been coming out from the Shimano camp. Pretty impressive. I'm using 10-pound Power Pro SSV2 chartreuse line to a 10-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader. My first choice when I'm up shallow, picking up those weary fish that are coming off the bed, maybe even catching a straggler on the bed that I'm just not seeing, that I'm just casting, or maybe even that I see, that'll be a good choice for you. What's up next? A swim jig. Now this is mostly going to be largemouth fishing. You can definitely catch smallmouth around current, stuff like that on a swim jig, or just fishing it outright. But this is one of my larger presentations, and for this I'm using a 1/4 ounce Outcast Tackle Pro Swim Jig, and I got a little 4-inch Spawn Exo Swim green pumpkin. Looks like a bluegill. A lot of your bluegills right now all over the country are spawning, and the bass are turning around, and they're right back at those bluegills that were harassing them while they were spawning. They're not only harassing them, but they're eating them too. And bluegills are a great source of protein. It's what those fish are looking for, that have been shallow, that are shallow moving out, and a swim jig helps me move water. Definitely a confidence bait. I know I've said that before. Messing around with the new rod again. We got the Loomis NRX Plus. This is the 853C, which is 7/1 medium heavy. Throwing straight 15-pound Seaguar Invizx fluorocarbon, and I'm throwing it on a Shimano Metanium. You guys know I love these new Metaniums, and this is a 7-speed. 7-speed's good for, you know, everything, because I can work it slow, I can work it fast. It's not too fast. You get a little excited sometimes, because I can fish this out on the weed lines 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, or right up off the bank, throwing it in laydowns and docks. This is definitely my setup for it, and so far I'm very impressed with this NRX Plus 7/1. It's got a fast tip, so I seem to hook them, plenty of backbone, but the action's good, and I can catch up to those fish that attack the bait from the back, which so many of them do, and that's how you lose so many of them on a swim jig. Outside of that, it is a fish catching bait. You can move water. Very seldom does it hang up on anything. Swim jig, definitely a good choice. Let's talk about deep fish. Both smallmouth and largemouth are definitely moving out deep, and a football jig will catch them. This is the brand new Outcast Tackle Elite Touchdown Jig. This is a 5/8 model. I like that because I can fish, you know, rocking 10, 12 feet all the way out to 20, 25, 30 feet. I'm using a new bait that I saw. I just like the color. It was hard to match this jig color. Just kind of messing with it as a jig trailer. I messed with my jig trailers all the time. You know, a Rage Craw is always a good choice, Spider Grub or whatever from Yamamoto. All of them make real good ones. I cut down some Biospawn baits and put them on there, whatever I got most confidence in, but I just want to match the color to my jig. This jig also has been awesome. We just dropped it. This thing pegs smallies, and I'm using a 15-pound test. I like that. I can make a long cast, and I want to poke that fish from a long way, and that hook right there is nasty. It's an O'Shaughnessy bend. It pegs them right in the roof of their mouth, and in the boat they come. I'm using the original NRX line. This is one of my favorite rods. I talk about it all the time, the NRX 873 CRR rod, which stands for Carolina Rig Rod. Good Carolina Rig Rod. Really good jig rod as well. It's 7.3 medium heavy, but it's got a little bit more heavy to it. It's got a faster tip on it, lots of backbone. It can handle, you know, jigs all the way up to 3/4 ounce. But definitely like it. And I'm using the Shimano Curado 200 HG. People ask me all the time, you know, you're in love with the new Metanium. Why are you still throwing the Curado? I have to sometimes. One, the Curado is bulletproof. It is an awesome, awesome reel. I haven't had a single issue with them and cashed a lot of checks on them. But it's got a bigger spool, and the Metanium doesn't have that spool. You know, several of the Shimano reels in the line have certain set spools, what they're used for, and at the same time when I'm fishing out in ledges, anything I want to make bomb casts, man, you can never go wrong with the Curado. It's got a little bit bigger spool than all the rest of them. Like I said, that thing's a bulletproof reel. All right, up next, let's get into these two. I got a little twofer for you, and we might as well get them out of the way now. We're doing 10 instead of the traditional 9 because we're going to talk about Lowrance ActiveTarget, forward-looking live sonar. We're using it a lot. You can't deny it. Trying to get better with it every day. Definitely, it's, you know, it's not foolproof, man. You just like everything else out there, the more time you put into it, the better you get, the more results you're going to get off of it. But one thing I'm noticing is I'm keeping baits on my deck that were usually certain time of year baits, like spring, like the spy bait and the jerk bait, and instead now they're becoming year-round baits for me. Why? Because I can see them so good on ActiveTarget out in front of the boat. I can see it so good. I can see the fish react to it. I can make fish bite it. So they've been staying on my deck all year long. So let's break them both down. First one up is my Shimano X Pride. I've been using this one for some time. Looking forward to getting my hands on a few new of the NRX Plus with the technology they added to those blanks. Really liking them for the reaction style fishing, and not, you know, even more so, and looking forward to getting that. But this X Pride has served me right. It's the 610 medium X Pride. I'm using a Shimano Metanium DC. This is an XG, so it's an 8-speed, picks it up real fast. I love the DC for throwing a jerk bait, because generally we're throwing jerk baits in terrible conditions. And in this case though, it's on the deck all the time, and I am throwing the brand new Shimano World Minnow. I'm excited to finally talk about this bait. It's got just a ton of appeal to it. Awesome new jerk bait. I'll be working with the new Shimano line of hard baits as they come out, and this one in particular, I've been having a ton of success on. I'm excited that it's finally out on the market so I can really start putting it to good use. Let's talk about a few features onto these new World Minnows. One, 3 hooks on this model. I like 3 hooks when I'm throwing a jerk bait, but this, you can see the scale pattern. It shines really nice in the light. It also looks a little bit different, shows a little bit more shine when it's cloudy too, which I love throwing a jerk bait in cloudy conditions, especially for smallmouth bass. The weight transfer system. This thing casts a mile. It casts further than any of the jerk baits of this size, this 115, anything around that 110 size, it outcasts them. Hugely important now. Fish are getting even more shy. You're in that clear water. You want to be able to make a super big cast. And then of course the flash boost. You can see that thing on the pause. It has a ton of flash in it right there. So this bait keeps putting out the appeal even when I'm not imparting the action, and creates that kind of liveliness look. Something you just don't get out of these jerk baits. I'm really excited to continue to work with Shimano on the rest of their hard baits as they come out, and the World Minnow is definitely a good jerk bait for that. And when you're using the ActiveTarget, again, I can see a brush pile, I can see the fish. Maybe it's just a fish cruising. I can throw this out there, I can see it because it stays in the water column, doesn't fall to the bottom, and I can watch how these fish react. So many fish that I just wouldn't have caught any other day, wouldn't have even known were there, I can actually turn into game changers simply by keeping a jerk bait on the deck. Another one, when I'm out a little deeper past the jerk bait, is going to be the spy bait. This is the Dual Realis. This is the 90 size. I like that. Again, we're talking about a little bit deeper. I'd probably go to the jerk bait, depending on water clarity, 12, 15 foot or under. 12, 15 foot to deeper, I'd probably prefer the spy bait. Again, something that stays in the water column that I can see. I'm throwing the brand new Loomis NRX Plus 902 SJR rod. That is a 7.6 medium action. It's a real soft rod. I can cast something like the spy bait a long way, but the biggest key about it is with treble hooks on a spy bait, they tend to lose them. With this rod, that's not the case. It not only does it make super long casts, but at the same time, when I do hook up with them, it's real limber, real soft, and I can just tire those fish out and land them at the side of the boat. I'm using the new Twin Power. This is the 4000 XG Twin Power. I like this a little bit over the Exsence because that's a little bit wider spool. Sometimes when it comes to throwing spy bait, I'll use straight fluoro, and having that wider spool will help with line twist and stuff like that. But just an overall great combo. I am using regular green and 8-pound standard Power Pro line in green, and I like that, and I'm using a longer leader as well. This is an actually 8-pound leader, but it's probably a 40-foot leader if I was to sit there and unravel this whole thing and show you. It's probably 40 feet because I'm expecting to swim this through a school. So I don't want to swim it past fish with bright chartreuse line. I want to have as much fluoro and invisibility on it, and then that green line back there for if it even is a little bit further away or that fish is closer to the boat, I can capitalize still on those bites. So definitely a spy bait, something, the jerk bait and the spy bait, something that generally went away from me this time of year, especially in the dog days, are now kind of permanent fixtures on the deck of my boat, which is good because then they're not tangling up everything else in my rod locker anyway. Next up, the Chatterbug. It's a Z-Man jackhammer. It's the only one I use. This one's an awesome one. I've been using this for both smallmouth and largemouth. As the water starts to dirty a little bit, and I'm get around dirty smallies, they love the vibration. Attack something like this. I'm using a Yodo worm from 10,000 Fish. It's a Ketchco brand, 10,000 Fish Yodo worm. Modified it slightly, but it looks really good on there. Stands up straight when I kill it or when I yo-yo it in the grass. But I can turn a lot of fish this time of year. Fishing the grass, maybe they blow up on something I can throw to them. A lot of times your water's getting super stained right now, so having that vibration, maybe even flipping it like a jig still, but just having that vibration, and even under docks, you know, that just helps bring fish in when the water's dirty. I'm using, again, a Shimano Metanium. This is the HG. I'm rocking a new NRX Plus. This is the Loomis NRX Plus 903C MBR, which is new to the NRX line. The 904, which I've got to mess with a lot as one of my prototypes, and then I got my hands on this 903. It's softer. I'm going to be doing a lot with this. Only one I have right now. Loving it as a big chatterbait rod. You know, I could throw even the 3/4 ounce model, maybe even the 1.25 ounce model on this, but at the same time, it's a soft enough rod, and I like the size that I think I'm going to start flipping milfoil with stuff like this too. I'm actually going between two rods, and we'll get to that in a second. For my line, I'm using straight 17-pound Seaguar Invizx fluorocarbon, and that's the setup. This seems to be working great. Mark my words, this NRX Plus 903C MBR will not only go down as one of the best rods ever made, but one of the best chatterbait rods too. That's a really cool rod. Let's just jump right into that 904. Here's my prototype, a little bit different. This has the old Loomis handle on it. Obviously they went to the new CI4 style handles. I prefer these, so I think that's a major upgrade there. Even though I never knew that I was gonna like that, I definitely do after messing with that. So that's really the only difference. As you can see, it's just my prototype 904 NRX Plus. Awesome frog rod. I use this for bigger paddle tails. I use it for a ton, and I'm going to need to get my hands on a whole bunch of these when they become more readily available. In Florida, these will be the rod that I have scattered all over my deck. Probably be these and a mega flipping stick. But right now I'm using this as a frog rod. Again, crowd okay. I'm using the XG. Want to pick up quick when the frog eats it, get them out of the lilies. That's the whole point. And again, the Corrado makes that super bomb long cast. I'm using straight 50-pound regular Power Pro over the SSV2 because regular Power Pro cuts better through vegetation. So I definitely want that. And then I just got a little Spro Bronzeye frog and green pumpkin on there. This time of year, fish are either going deeper or they're going thicker. So that's the key. If they go thicker, the frog is an awesome choice for that. As is, I love tagging boat docks. One of my favorite things to do is catch bass under boat docks. I love flipping milfoil. That's probably my other favorite thing to do. This right here is the Outcast Tackle Cage Fighter jig. Right now I got it set up as a dock rod and a flipping rod. If I was to be strictly flipping, I would go with the Stealth Fighter. It has the horizontal line, the vertical line tie instead of the horizontal. This one actually works through wood and stuff like that a lot better. It's a great cover jig, comes through those docks, stuff real good. I also use it as a utility jig, a little mini football jig sometimes when I want. It's got tungsten so I can feel great. This is the 1/2 ounce model. I'm using a little Spawn Exo Pod on here. Great little bait on its own, let alone as a trailer for the jig. You can see I'm using chartreuse line, man. I'm running an FG knot with about a 12 to 15-foot leader on here, running FG knot, so I may as well, I want to be able to watch my line as often as I can. I can't tell you how many times I'll pick up bites like that with the chartreuse line. Same reason why I would on the spinning poles, and I'm starting to implement it that way, and I've really been digging it. So this is a straight 40-pound Power Pro SSV2, skips like a dream. We're using a Shimano Metanium HG. Get the bite, set the hook. It's all about reeling them in fast, so I love that 8-speed there. And I'm messing with the new rod. This is the NRX Plus. This is the 873C CRR rod. Again, the Carolina rig rod. This is the updated version. It is a great jig rod. I'm not lying. I love it for docks. I love it for Texas rigs. I love it for flipping milfoil. This pegs them a lot better for me, and more so when I do hit them using braid to fluoro. A lot like the spinning rod, I can use a little bit more of a limber rod, which means I'm going to land a bigger percent of those fish. When they come straight up, I don't want my rod just to flex straight like it will on a heavier, extra heavy. I want it to keep some bow into it, and this rod works for that great. That's my setup for this one. If I'm fishing largemouth, give me a frog, give me a chatterbait, give me the fighter jig, dude, and I'm pretty much set. Those are my favorites. All right, since I threw in that extra one when it came to the ActiveTarget for using, ActiveTarget, being able to see your baits, we got 2 left, both of them of the spinning rod variety, and both of them are unique to largemouth and smallmouth. In this setup, I have a Ned rig with my 10,000 fish Sakoshi bug. If you've seen any what's on my decks before, darn near almost every single one of them, unless I'm in Florida, which I bet you I could still catch them on a June bug one or something like that there, but that's just one of my favorites. I'm using a 3/16 1/0 Outcast tackle, perfect net head. That's the one that I designed. This is the best net head on the market, stickiest hook on the market, snags the less, stands up straight every single time, killer bait. This is generally, I'm using this for smallmouth. I'll catch plenty of largies on this exact bait. However, I might switch it up, say I'm at a place like Lake Minnetonka, a grass line, something. I might put an Outcast tackle money jig on instead and just a little 4-inch Cinco and more of a jig worm style. But again, the setup will be the same. This is the Shimano Exsence, the brand new one, the 4000 MXG. I'm using the new Loomis NRX Plus 7.3 872S jig worm rod, 7.3 medium. It's my favorite rod, the favorite spinning rod in the whole entire line. I use a bunch of them. I do in the old model, I do in this model. It's just my favorite one. Be using these a lot. I can use it for tubes, I can use it for largemouth drop shot, jig worm, as I said, Ned rig, so many different options. I was using it for micro jigs. It's just so many different things you can do with this rod. But again, I'm using 10-pound Power Pro SSV2 to straight 10-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader. And again, this is my setup that I'm just using out there, probing rocks, rock piles, rock spines for largemouth, weed lines, stuff like that, a finesse presentation, but still looking for big bites. And last but not least, the drop shot. The one bait that should be on your deck all times a year. You can see I'm going a little long here for my liking even, and pretty small with the bait because it is a finessey time of year. I'm using a 1/2 ounce Woo tungsten weight. This right here is a little owner cover shot hook. My buddy and awesome photographer Charles Waldorf actually made this for me. I need to get more of them because that's like one of my favorites, and it's like my last one, hence why it's barely hanging on there. I'm using again the new Loomis NRX Plus. This is the 822S drop shot rod. Generally, I'm using this drop shot for open water smallmouth and even brush piles. So I just like how limber it is. I feel like I can get them out of there without hooking into the actual brush pile. Outside of that, I might bump up to like the 872 that we just talked about if I'm fishing largemouth weed line drop shot stuff. But again, I might bump up my hook, still going to be an owner cover shot, just a little bit bigger, weight size varies, and maybe I'm doing like a robo worm or something like that, a little tiny worm on there. But this setup right here is money. Again, I got this long leader because it's getting to be the dog days. It's getting to be tough to get bit, and the drop shot just puts bites in the boat. As with the wacky Cinco, there's something about a weightless piece of plastic that just will catch bass pressure bass all times of year. And though this has a weight on it, it's meant just to get it to the bottom and then give it time to sit there and hang out. Again, I'm switching out the bait for that a lot, but this is my setup. These NRX Plus rods are the real deal. I know they're showing up in stores with everything going on. They're coming fast, and I know that they're getting bought as quick as that they're coming, but they're literally the finest rod that I've ever used before. And I said that with the previous NRX, and I've always said that about that line of rods, and I'm just very happy with how this new Plus turned out, that they actually outdid themselves, and they did some new technology to that. Super light, shaved off just a little bit of weight. They're stronger rods all the way around. Definitely check out the new NRX Plus. And again, for those out there not looking for rods and reels quite as high as these are my tournament setups. Please continue to check out my other What's on My Deck. Should I look past? I use a lot of my guide rods. I go through a lot of the G Loomis and Shimano lineup, and remember a lot of those serial numbers, a lot of those different ones, like the 902. Well, they'll make a 902 or a 901 in another line within the G Loomis family. So just go through there and look. The specs are the same. Look for what's best for you. And of course, all this kind of tackle out there, please stop by Scheels and check out their full line of fishing tackle. If not by a Scheels, check them out online, scheels.com. They have something for everybody, the outdoorsmen, hunters, fishermen, gatherers, sports. I know they still sharpen hockey skates. Don't bring your wife, because she will spend more money than you will. I guarantee it. It's that kind of a store. But please check them all out. They got a full line of tackle, and it's the perfect place to shop for your next family outing.